first. All right. Just like yesterday. Just reverse.
You get to sit to start with, fellas. If you want to take your book with you, or if anything sneaks up that isn't in the book, we can do this. You can follow there, and we're going to turn this to where you actually pick up and start. Make sense? Ashrei, yes? Is your first thing? Because my menu's over here, so. Okay. And Bella, you can unmask for the duration. Be a little silly for like on and off. You good?
Yeah. Ready.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Let me welcome you to Baltimore Hebrew congregation, the small number of people in the room joining us for our Mincha and Havdalah service, a larger number of you online with us. We're happy that you're here with us. We're going to dive right into some Shabbat music welcoming this moment at the waning end of Shabbat, and we will talk a little more about what's going on in the service after that. And so we turn in our prayer book to page 211 as we celebrate the glory of a cold but crisply beautiful Shabbat.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת ובשביל רצית בו וקידשתו שבת חמדת ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת ובשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת זכר למעשה וראשית שבת זכר למעשה וראשית שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת.
We at Baltimore Hebrew congregation are glad to be both in person and streaming at this moment in the pandemic. Anyone attending services should be fully vaccinated, including a booster at this point. They should be wearing a KN95, N95, or double masked. Double masked at this point means wearing a surgical mask covered by a well-fitted cloth mask. Cloth masks on their own are no longer considered acceptable in the space. As we start with that warning of COVID, we more importantly embrace this Shabbat, embrace Bella Pollara's bat mitzvah. A couple of thoughts about our service for those not familiar with it. Bella prepared to lead us in worship today, and so whether you are in the room or online, it's your role to be participating along the way. And I would suggest for Bella's friends and family online, you might want to at some point take a picture of yourself watching the screen, and email that along to Bella and her family so you're visually part of the day as well. If you're at home, you should be able to find a link to our prayer book by looking at the Baltimore Hebrew page. The prayer book is available digitally. You'll be able to follow along with the spirit of the service if you don't have the specific words in front of you. And so we turn to page 212 as we begin. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us the humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all the fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us, and may our offerings be acceptable to you. We turn to page 218 as we read together. I need strength, humility, courage, patience, strength to control my passions, humility to assess my own worth, courage to rise above defeats, patience to cleanse myself of imperfections, and wisdom to learn and live by our sacred teachings. Let me not be discouraged by my failings. Let me take heart from all that is good and noble in my character. Keep me from falling victim to cynicism. Teach me sincerity and enthusiasm. Endow me with perception and courage, that I may serve others with compassion and love. The service we now continue our way into is a Shabbat afternoon mincha service. The afternoon service being less familiar to most Reformed Jews, more familiar we are with an evening or a morning service, and you'll note some things, some very notable things are missing from the service, like the Shema, except we do have a Torah service, and the Haftarah. But that mincha service leads its way into Havdalah, the service that will end Shabbat with us. It makes up for everything that is missing with the sweetness that it brings to our worship. And so I'd like to invite Bella up to the reading desk as we turn to page 220.
Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, od yehalelu hasela. Ashrei ha'am shekachalo, Ashrei ha'am she'adonai Elohav. Happy are those who dwell in your house. They forever praise you. Happy the people who have it so. Happy the people whose God is Adonai. Please turn to page 227. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. We continue with Tefillah on page 226. Please rise. Adonai, sifai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Velohei avotenu, ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagidol Hagibor, V'anorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imaot, u'mevi geula livnei v'neichem, Leman shemo be'achava, Melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Megain Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. You are forever mighty, Adonai. You give life to all. You cause the wind to shift and rain to fall. You sustain life through love, giving to all, through great compassion, supporting the fallen, healing the sick, freeing the captive, keeping faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, source of mighty acts? Who resembles you? A sovereign who takes life and gives life, causing deliverance to spring up and faithfully give life to all. Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives life to all. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikayeh hakol.
Page 232.
To all generations, we declare your greatness, and for all eternity, proclaim your holiness, your praise. O God, shall never depart from our lips. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God.
And as we sing at the top of the page,
Yai lai 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 lai, Yai lai yai lai lai, Yai lai 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 lai, Yai lai lai. Together. Yai lai 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 lai, Yai lai yai lai lai. Yai lai 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 lai, Yai lai lai. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וכרז אל זבי עמו. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, אדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו ומלכנו, הושיענו, ישמיענו, ורחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה, 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 הללויה,
I now invite my sister Gia, and we will continue on page 235.
please be seated.
Our ancestors brought you spices and foods to gain your favor, O God. Most precious in our day is the offering of time. Accept this gift we have set aside, the sanctity of this full day. Oh, to revel in your presence, to celebrate the beauty of your handiwork, to rejoice in the gift of life.
That was amazing. I love you. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we give praise. For the peace in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For the gift of Shabbat, which renews us for life, we offer blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue together on page 237. Adonai, our God, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shehotecha levadecha, be'yir na'avod.
Page 238. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one whose mercies never end, O compassionate one whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Page 240, a prayer of peace.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Together. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael. Bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim continue with a moment of silent prayer. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ose shalom bimroma, uyase shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimroma, uyase shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimroma, uyase shalom aleinu. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol
I'm aware that we are this far into a Shabbat service on this particular Shabbat, with having not yet mentioned last Shabbat. I won't speak about it as fully as I did last night, and I assume was dressed this morning. But at this time last night, I think all of us participating today were following the crisis at Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas. Thankfully, that wasn't here, but we felt so connected to it. And thankfully, it ended safely for the rabbi and his members, but it ripples through us still. Parshat Mishpatim, which we will hear Bella read from in just a moment, speaks to laws to help structure a society, laws and norms that when shaken, complicate the goal of a peaceful society. The last verse I believe we will hear Bella read this evening is Exodus 23, verse 9. You shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the feelings of the stranger. As I discussed last night, let us understand our communal and traditional charge to be one that considers both sides of the equation that verse talks about. And let us acknowledge that we were not only strangers in ancient Egypt, but Jews have known what it means to be the other across history, across our society. And so let us hear the message of this verse, which Bella will explicate this portion much more deeply than I am. But let's understand the message of this verse to be that we must, on a simple level, continue to be kind to others even when they are vulnerable. And it's not an either or. Let us also know that we need to look out for ourselves because we cannot always depend on others. As Rabbi Hillel said 2,000 years ago, words that are quite likely familiar, Imein ani li mili, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? And he continued, Ukshe'ani la'atzmi ma'ani, and if I am only for myself, what am I? He understood both sides of the equation in this verse. You shall not oppress a stranger or know the feelings of the stranger. So as strangers and to strangers, may we remember who we are called to be. As we hear Torah read this afternoon, let us hear its message, not as just an ancient set of laws, but as something that speaks to us today, this Shabbat, this week ending, taking off from the end of last week. Let us keep that deeply in mind. Amen. We turn now to our Torah service. This is always where we do normally have a bunch of stage directions, even before all the additional COVID directions. And so in a moment, I'm going to invite Gianna up to open the Ark, and I'm going to invite up Bella's parents, Dana and Brian, and her grandparents, inviting them up physically and not physically at the same time. We include and celebrate with all of you, Leonard and Maxine Schindel, Henny and Jack Farbin, and while we wish he was here physically, John Pollara as well. Please rise. So park that there. Turn to the right page. You're gonna want it nice and easy for you right there. You're gonna there.
Ashlosha devarim, Ashlosha devarim, Ashlosha devarim, haolam omed. Ashlosha devarim, שלושה דברים העולם עומד על התורה ועל עבודה ועל גמילות חסדים על התורה ועל עבודה ועל גמילות חסדים.
Bella, the Torah and its lessons have been passed down across the generations. We are thrilled that this Torah is symbolically passed from generation to generation, and we now pass it down to you. May you hold this scroll and, more importantly, embrace its values to care for yourself, your family, and the world. Mazel tov.
Yisrael Adonai Elohim Eloheinu, Adonenu, Kadosh Ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid kod lecha, ulenetzach netzachim, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nagdish, vidor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid kod lecha, ulenetzach netzachim, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nagdish.
Wait. So eager to dive right in. But I believe you have some of your own words of blessings for your daughter. And at this moment, because the cancer and I are both far away, for blessing her, go grab it. You are not the first parents to forget to bring it up.
Live TV.
We are bad clergy to not have it in front of you. And I would say for this moment, because we are far away from you, for your personal blessings, you guys can all take your masks off for a moment and enjoy this together, please. And Dana, Brian, pull the mic closer. Go ahead.
Your name, Isabella, was decided by fate before we were officially a we. Don't cry. As the story goes, your dad asked me on our very first date if I was the kind of girl that already knew what I wanted to name my kids someday. I told him that I had one name in particular that I loved for a little girl, should I ever be so lucky to have one. Then I asked him, are you the kind of guy who has the names picked out for his kids someday? To which he replied that he too had one name that he especially loved for a daughter someday. We sat in complete amazement as we each revealed that the same chosen name was Isabella. So it was meant to be, beshared, that you, our sweet Isabella, would be a part of our life's journey. But never in a million years could we have envisioned the person that you would become as you grew into this given name, or Bella, as we lovingly like to call you. Isabella, you are strong and self-aware. At a time when there is so much pressure to fit a certain mold, you know that you know your self-worth. You stand tall in your convictions, and you choose to be unapologetically yourself. You have been courageous in stepping away from past passions like acting and singing, and challenging yourself to pursue new and exciting endeavors, such as writing, film, and most recently working with children. This year alone, you have persevered through juggling tutoring sessions for both Hebrew and math, recovering from a double knee surgery, and preparing for your high school assessment that is required to apply to the magnet school program that you wish to attend next year. All of this and more during a global pandemic. You astound and amaze us every single day with your resilience and determination to grow in your ambitions and to achieve your dreams.
Bella, you are what can be called an old soul. You have wisdom and maturity beyond your years. You also have so much genuine compassion for others. You never have an unkind or judgmental word for anyone that crosses your path. You value family and friendship above all else and are incredibly sensitive and sincere in each of your interactions. You have a wonderful way of making others feel seen, heard, and appreciated. You also have a true gift when it comes to engaging with children. You are a natural teacher, just like your mom. Today, you stand on this bima wearing the talit that was given to me by your great-grandfather, Irvin Milner, that I wore at my own bar mitzvah just over 30 years ago. As you complete this rite of passage and become a young Jewish adult, we are beaming with pride and cannot begin to tell you how proud you have made us. You have embodied your Jewish culture and identity at this very temple by becoming a madricha, knowing that it will help influence and shape the lives of other young Jewish children. We hope that you continue to find value and meaning through Judaism, both within our community here at Baltimore Hebrew and beyond, as you continue to make your way in the world. We love you, and Mazel Tov.
Let me in beautiful word. First date, really?
First date.
Wow. Let me invite you all to put your masks back on for this part of the service, even Bella, and then invite Cantor Ellerman to come join you.
Thank you, Rabbi. If you'd like to follow along with our Torah reading for our Mincha service, you can find it in the larger of the two books in front of you. If you're following along at home, Bella will be chanting from Parshat Mishpatim as we move into the Parsha for the weeks to come. Eager as we are always to move forward in learning and reading from Torah, Bella will be chanting from Exodus chapter 23, verses 1 through 9. So whatever copy of the Torah you have in front of you, you can find it. Exodus 23, verses 1 through 9. In our copy, our plowed, it's on page 519. 519. And again, Bella will be beginning with verse 1. Just a moment, Bella. I've gone past it, sorry.
All good.
All right. There it is.
Okay.
Yes, okay. All right, so Bella, we're going to start right here. Is where verse 1 starts.
Okay.
And before we do, we're going to invite your parents to recite blessings over Torah. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bahar banu mikol ha'amin, v'na'atan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten ha'torah.
Amen. Okay, here we go. Danny, would you hold that for us? Thank you. Mr. Right here. Got it? Okay, take your time.
Amen. Lo tisa shema shav al tashet yadecha im rasha lihiyot eid Hamas lo tiye acharei rabim leraot velo ta'aneh al riv lintot acharei rabim lehatot v'hitzal lo tedar berivo.
Beautiful. And the blessing after Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam v'ata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Mazel tov. Thank you, Have a seat and enjoy the view from the other side.
Love you. Good job. Thanks.
And for the honor of the blessings for our second Aliyah, it's a pleasure to invite Bella's grandmothers, Maxine Schindel and Henny Farbman, to recite blessings. Mazel tov.
Ready? Okay. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamrorach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamrorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Great, and if you would, someone would help us to hold the scroll open. Perfect, that's great, right? Okay, I'll start right here.
Here?
Great, you got it.
Amen. Chi tifka shor oivcha o chamoro toeh hashev teshivenu lo ki tireh chamor sona'aha rovates tachat masaho v'hadalta me'azov lo azov ta'azov imo lo tateh mishpat avyonecha berivo.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Mazel tov. If you'd like to give Bella a hug and a kiss. And then we'll actually invite you to stay, if you don't mind, to help us hold the Torah for Bella's final Aliyah. But do go ahead and give those hugs.
Where would you like? Come here.
There's
I
always
get
room.
one.
And actually, right where you were is perfect, if you don't mind. Thank you. And now, as a community, we have the pleasure of calling Bella up to the Torah for the first time to recite Torah blessings, to be recognized communally as a Jewish adult. In doing so, we call you up, Bella, using your Hebrew name and a traditional formula. Ta'amod, 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 habachura bat mitzvah, penina freda bat baruch fischel, vedanit moran, chizki ve'imti. And now Bella will lead us in our blessing before Torah, and then our final Torah reading.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Bella will be beginning on verse 7. Okay.
Mivar shecher tirhag v'nahi v'sadik al taharog ki lo astik rasha v'shohan lo tilhag ki hashohan yechaver pikrim V'salev divrei tzadikim, v'ger lo tilchatz, Yiratem et nefesh hager, chigerim hayitem me'eretz Mitzrayim.
And now, Bella will share with us the translation in English of all the Torah she just chanted so beautifully.
Thank you.
I'll take the yacht. All right, nice and slow.
You must not carry false rumors. You shall not join hands with the guilty to act as a malicious witness. You shall neither side with the mighty to do wrong. You shall not give perverse testimony in a dispute so as to pervert it in a favor of the mighty. Nor shall you show deference to a poor man in his dispute. When you encounter your enemy's ox or ass wandering, you must take it back to him. When you see the ass of your enemy lying under its burden and would refrain from raising it, you must nevertheless raise it with him. You shall not subvert the rights of your needy in their disputes. Keep far from a false charge. Do not bring death on those who are innocent and in the right, for I will not acquit the wrongdoer. Do not take bribes, for bribes blind the clear-sighted and upset the pleas of those who are in the right. You shall not oppress the stranger, for you know the feeling of the stranger, having yourselves been strangers in the land of Egypt. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten ha'torah.
Amen. Let me invite Bella's grandmothers to go back down from the bima to their seats, and let me invite Dana and Brian back up to dress Torah. Please rise. You game to do this? Yep. You practice it? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lipnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Lechi lach to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha to a place you do not know. Lechi lach on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach, lechi lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. Lechi lach.
Nishaberak avotenu v'imotenu. May the one who blessed our ancestors, ancient and recent, bless those in our lives, our families, our communities in need of refuah shlema, in need of healing from a variety of ailments and illnesses and injuries, and also those grappling with the coronavirus as well. Patricia Abend, Miriam Abramson, Gail Adamson, Nathaniel Agin, Amanda Arold, Sam Bach, Shelley Bloss Bernstein, Jacob Bennis, Bella Berman, Cindy Blake, Justin Bridle, Dale Bookbinder, Christian Burdett, Etta Mindel Batchana, Natalie Conrad, George Dover, Evan Dime, Sherry Einhorn, David Elkis, Bob Fitchett, Elaine Gammerman, Lynn Garrison, Roseanne Gerstel, Athene Goldstein, Claire Goldstein, Arnold Gresser, Dr. Richard Gross, Bonnie Jacobson, Arnold Katz, Lenny Kinland, Joseph Klein, Buzz Kolodny, Rachel Letterman, Linda Leffman, Christopher Mediri, Tzipora Bela Malka, Barry Mendelson, Sandy Minkin, Nachum Yisrael, Ben Yoshua Meir, Vishendel Rachel, Craig Parham, Susan Samuels, Ruth Subert, Mary Shearson, Elizabeth Smith, Amy Sponseller, Ricky Stewart, Peter Street, David I. Tossman, Leslie Waldman, Donna Wasserman, Arlene Weiner, Emma Weinstein, Ryan Willis, Trudy Yohei, and Warren Yuspa. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Praised are you, O source of healing. Amen.
Amen.
And we turn from thinking of those back to thinking of our Torah portion again, as it's our pleasure to invite Bella to deliver her own Devar Torah, her understanding of this portion and this day.
COVID-19 has affected my life in countless ways, impacting my education, my mental health, and so much more. You would be the first if you said it had no effect on you whatsoever. On March 13, 2020, I went home from school thinking I would have some extra spring break. I now find myself writing this after recently returning to school from a year and a half on virtual learning at home. We are still living in our new normal of wearing masks and social distancing. I have been vaccinated and boosted just like the rest of my family, though this wasn't the case a year ago today. There was no vaccine and we were still in lockdown. I am so grateful for the way things are now with technology and medicine evolving by the second in order to keep us all safer. My Torah portion, Parashat Mishpatim from Exodus 21 through 24, presents our laws. It outlines laws pertaining to dishonoring parents, slavery, murder, stealing, inflicting damage on others, and finally being kind to strangers in need, like orphans and widows. The meaning behind these laws are still relevant today as we continue to live through a pandemic, especially considering the laws that speak to protecting and respecting our family and the most vulnerable people in society. Rabbi Anna Boheim, who is the program director for Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religious Founders Fellowship, gives commentary on my portion. Referring to being empathetic to the stranger, she says, "Though this is the first time we are told to protect the stranger, the Torah has broached the concept of the stranger before, even in Genesis, at the very beginning of it all. When God first blesses Abraham, God's words include, 'Know now that your descendants shall be strangers in a land not theirs. They shall be enslaved and afflicted for 400 years. But then I will bring judgment upon the nation they are serving. After that they shall go out with many possessions.'" Genesis 15:13 through 14. These powerful words indicate that the identity of the stranger may be based in the Egypt experience, but it isn't limited to it. She is referring to the part in my portion that tells us that we were once strangers when we were in the land of Egypt. We are strangers ourselves, therefore we should value and care for the strangers among us, treating others how we would wish to be treated. During the coronavirus, we have to be extremely careful to keep ourselves healthy and safe, as well as the people around us. When I began writing this sermon in November, the vaccine for children ages 5 to 11 had just been approved a few days prior. I was so grateful to receive my vaccine in May as soon as it was available to children my age. Though my little sister, Gianna, is high risk and couldn't get it until this fall. Gia has asthma and complex regional pain syndrome. We don't know how COVID could affect her immune system, so we have to be very cautious where we go out and who we see. Now that she is vaccinated, we have a little more safety, but we still have to be very careful as she is considered to be more vulnerable. While protecting my little sister, as well as my grandparents from COVID by getting vaccinated, wearing a mask, and following CDC guidelines, I must also be mindful of protecting strangers. These strangers could be kids I pass in the hall, the family next to us at a restaurant, or even just the person ahead of me in the Starbucks line. Even though I don't know these people, there are still people with lives and families that love them. I must show care and concern for strangers in the same way I would hope that they would for me. In today's world, that means continuing to mask up and keep my distance so I can protect others from a virus I can unknowingly spread to them at any time. While the laws outlined in my Torah portion do not directly relate to protecting children other than orphans, living through this pandemic has shown me how vulnerable all children are at this time. Children today have to live through school closures, quickly having to adapt to online learning, isolation from friends and activities, and the fear of seeing themselves or their loved ones become sick. Over the summer, I was a camp counselor for a week at an art camp, and I'm currently one of the Madrahim in a third grade class here at BHC. I have noticed how students sometimes have trouble focusing in class and managing their emotions. Recognizing how important the mental health of children is in these uncertain times, I thought I may be able to create a tool to help students cope and calm down in school. In the spirit of Tikkun Olam, mending the world, I decided that my mitzvah project would be to make sensory calming bottles for classrooms at my Gunpowder Elementary School, where I attended for kindergarten through grade 5. I was able to create and deliver 30 glitter calming bottles to Gunpowder in time for the start of the second semester of the school year. I hope that students will benefit from using these in the classroom if they're feeling sad, scared, or overwhelmed in school. I'd like to thank the clergy and congregation of BHC for supporting me through this journey. I would not be able to do this without you, and it's such a blessing to be part of this community. I would like to give a huge thank you to Rabbi Bush, Kenner Sachs, and Kenner Ellerin. I cannot thank you enough for all the help and support that you've given me in preparing for today. Kenner Sachs, you are the reason that I'm able to push past my fears and be up here today to read Hebrew with such fluency and grace. Rabbi Bush, thank you for helping me prepare my service and sermon so that it is meaningful and special for both me and for my family. Kenner Ellerin, thank you for helping me cross the bridge into Jewish adulthood so that I'm able to walk out of today's service feeling proud of my accomplishment. Next, I would like to thank my family. Mom and Dad, I love you so much, and having you by my side today means the world to me. I can never thank you enough for your support throughout the endless nights of practicing the same lines over and over again to getting it just right. I would also like to thank my sister Gianna for being my cheerleader and the best sidekick a girl could ever ask for. I love you so much. Thank you to my grandparents for supporting me and watching me grow into my Jewish identity step by step. Thank you to my family and friends who are here today virtually to support me on this special milestone day. I'm so happy to share this moment with all of you. Thank you.
You can look this way. Stay right there, but look this way. And you can breathe a little now, Bella. Other than some Havdalah services, the heavy lifting is done. When your family, I'll leave the notebook for a moment. Just leave it. You're good. When your family, no, I was serious. Leave the notebook. Bella, you're good. Look this way. This is. No, wait, we're in no rush. When your family, I don't think at that first date your parents were imagining your bat mitzvah. They were negotiating over names, but I don't think they were yet at this moment. That would really be advanced planning. But when they began to think about your bat mitzvah, and when your family joined this congregation not so many years ago, this giant room and your family and friends online was not exactly the intimacy that you were imagining. You were thinking of being on the other end of the building more, I think, in the chapel. And yet in this largely empty space today, despite the reality of knowing that you can be nervous stepping in front of a space or an infinite unknown number of people online, you have managed to make this space intimate. You have managed, together with the inspiration of your parents, to make this space relatively new to you, especially because for 2 years you haven't been in the building all that much, some religious school, to make it yours. And our hope is, moving forward, that connection to the congregation, to this space, to the heritage of wearing the talis your father has worn, that goes back generations from you. We hope that all of that gives you the kind of strength that your mitzvah project was trying to give a group of kids. or the very sweet view that the cantor and I had of you supporting your sister when she was reading. That is actually what this is all about. And so it is impressive to us the way you talk about your mom and your dad and your sister. Trust us, that is not how every child speaks about their family in terms of that reality, which kudos to your parents. We are thrilled at the way you have engaged at BHC as a madricha, especially in the midst of this pandemic, helping lead other younger children. If you think about third graders, they don't know this building, this space, this congregation until you have helped welcome them in many cases. And we are glad you're in that way following in your dad's footsteps into leadership of the congregation as he is chairing our Rosh Hashanah Under the Stars this year and co-chaired it this past year. Our hope is we hear you interpret your portion and how we hear you, or rather see you really live who you hope to be, and I think who your parents hope to be in your daily life and interactions. It's our hope that at your confirmation there are more people in the room and a class surrounding you and it's open, but it's mostly our hope that your openness and caring and your intelligence and drive find both grounding and an outlet within your Jewish heritage and within your Jewish community. And the words that Cantor Ellerin and I are now going to bless you with, words from the Torah itself, are words that we hope carry you forward in life. As I was joking with your parents, this pandemic provides us every moment and service a new blocking problem, choreography-wise. So let's have you face, this is only the second Shabbat in the history of the congregation a cantor sang over there. And it's the first time I've stood here. So you're gonna face the cantor for all the Hebrew, and then turn back to me when he's done with all that Hebrew.
Okay.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha
May God bless you and protect you. May God's presence shine upon you and be ever gracious to you. May God's presence shine upon you and grant you and all you love and all who love you God's most precious gift of shalom, of completeness and peace. Amen.
Amen.
Mazel tov. And we continue with the Shechianu, words thanking God for our lives and for this moment to celebrate.
Together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu vekimanu vehigianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu vekimanu vehigianu lazman hazeh.
Turn the Torah to the Ark. Let me invite Jaya back up to open the Ark for us as we turn to page 256 and rise.
Eitz Chaim lama chazikim ba v'tov And on page 282, we continue with the Aleinu. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. You can sit too, Bella. You can sit too.
Oh, okay.
Page 293. Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. On this Shabbat, we especially remember those whose deaths and funerals have occurred during the past month, the period of Shloshim: William Bill Shevker, Geneva Smith, Roger Gluckman, Lynn Spivak, Linda Berkowitz, Sheldon Kaplan, Buddy Kaufman, Edward Rosenberg, Dr. Stephen Bacharach, Ada Lloyd, Alwyn Herbst, Harriet Greenberg, Brazette Ramin, Marilyn Davidson, and Dorothy Fox. We announce with sorrow the passing of Sheldon Sandler, husband of our member Carol Sandler. The funeral arrangements are private, and our sincere condolences to their family. And we mark the following yahrzeits, anniversaries of a death which have been requested to be read from the Bima: Daniel Aiken, Max Alexander, Sylvia Baruch, Samuel Braverman, Rena Chapin, Charles Cohen, Samuel Cohen, Albert Diener, Mildred Du Bois, Charles Epstein, Rose Frank, Louis Frank Sr., Sylvia Getlin, Milton Glazer, Helen Goldman, B. Goldstein, Dora Gutman, Elsie Gutman, Rabbi Adolf Gutmacher, B.B. Hecht, Hilda Himmelrich, Eleanor O. Hirsch, Sophie Hurwitz, Saul Eichen, Rachel Imhoff, Bertha Jandorf, Jeanette Coleman, Melvin Kabik, Martin Katz, Morton Kramer, Pauline Kramer, Hyman Linder, Bessie Miller, Louis Miller, Ruth Oppenheimer, Edward Pearson, William Quirnbach, Ruth Rosenbaum, Morris Rosenfeld, Walter Rosenthal, Bruce Shackman, Saul Chevelle, Rose Steinbach, Jeanette Woolman, and Fanny Zipkin. The Pollara family would like to remember Paula Farbman, as well as Bella's great-grandmothers, for whom she is named: Paula Dashkoff, Frenchie Milner, and Claire Schindel. As we remember them and all we've loved and lost, we turn to page 294 for Kaddish. I'd like to invite anyone who is in mourning or marking a yahrzeit to please rise. And as I forgot to intend last night, we also ask everyone to rise as we remember this congregation's rabbi from the late 19th century into the early 20th century, Rabbi Adolf Gutmacher. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma devra kirutei v'yalmik malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael, b'agalav izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omei almaya, Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu leila minkol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May there be peace and life for us, for all Israel, and for all humanity, and may the source of peace grant peace and comfort to those who mourn, and let us say, amen. Bella, let me invite you to step back up to the reading desk, but what I want you to do actually, put your notebook down, step back down, and reach under, all the way down, pull out that great big blue bag.
Oh gosh, that's heavy.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Don't go pull it all the way out, plunk it on the reading desk next to you, but not in front of you because you'll be lost. Every kid gets lost. Sure, that'll work. And again, in normal space and time, we have a member of the congregational leadership doing this. Even if there were more people in the room at this moment in the pandemic, we've handed it off to the clergy, actually. So I speak here actually on behalf of the whole congregation. Bella, as we are thrilled to be celebrating with you, the Board of Electors of Baltimore Hebrew Congregation congratulates you and your family. And to celebrate this achievement, we have a few gifts in that bag. Open it up later. From the youth education program, your own copy of the Bible so that you will always have one on your bookshelf. Shabbat candlesticks and the Kiddush cup that you used last night on the Bima are given to you by the Brotherhood and the women of BHC. From the North American Federation of Temple Youth, a gift certificate to help you participate in an IFTI high school trip to Israel. May your Judaism and your place within this congregation be a source of strength for you as you continue in your education and hopefully towards confirmation and in your place within the congregation as a whole. Mazel tov. A few announcements, more than a few, you may want to sit down. As I reminded at the beginning of the service, but we're making sure we remind often for those who may have joined us late, we as a congregation are glad to carefully be both in person and streaming. Anyone attending services should be fully vaccinated, including a booster. They should be wearing a KN95, N95, or double masked. Double masked means wearing a surgical mask covered by a well-fitted cloth mask. Cloth masks on their own are no longer sufficient. Youth education is starting back up after a couple of weeks off tomorrow morning, but it will be virtual, and you should look at your emails for the timing, which is a little different, and for the links. Adult Hebrew also starts back up after a break, and our new PEP adult education courses pick back up this Sunday. All of this will be virtual until further notice. We hope not that long. The trends are at least headed back in the right direction. This semester's PEP adult courses are Rabbi Amy Scheinerman, who will be teaching the Talmud's Wealth of Wisdom, and Dr. Susanna Garfein, who will present an introduction to Jewish law. Newcomers are welcome. On Monday from 11 to 11:30, please drop your casseroles at BHC so they can be delivered to Our Daily Bread to help those who need them. Casseroles should be frozen. They can be store-bought mac and cheese, lasagna, or home-cooked barbecue chicken. That chicken recipe you can get from the temple office during working hours. Monday, in person actually, is BHC's Community Blood Drive from 2 to 7 p.m. in person, an important cause, but you do need to register in advance to set a time to donate blood. Our final Winter Nights on Park Heights discussion is this Tuesday, January 23rd at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Rabbi Debbie Pine of Hillel International will lead a discussion entitled Understanding Gen Z. On Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., the women of BHC present Dishonor, Jewish Badges of Medieval Europe with Dr. Sarah Jablin Roberts of Johnson & Wales University. And this one's a little tricky. We've been saying it over and over. Next Friday night is a little unusual. BHC will not hold its own service. Rather, we will join together across the street for our annual Union for Reform Judaism Shabbat at Har Sinai Ob Shalom congregation, along with Bolton Street Synagogue. Cantor Rosalie will be the special guest. The service will be on Zoom, not on BHC's account, and also on Facebook. And Har Sinai Ob Shalom requires a couple of forms and a registration be filled out online and reserving a place before going. So please make sure you do that if you hope to attend. Even more complicated than our rules. And for more information, you can look at our emails, our bulletin, or our website. We hope you can all engage one way or another. We now turn for the end of the service to our beautiful Havdalah blessings, which can be found starting on page 308, as we have wine, spices, and candles, all a candle with many wicks, all to symbolize the beauty of Shabbat just ended, taking us into the week. Let me invite Brian, Dana, and Gia back up to help us. Get to each of those blessings. Whoever's holding that particular thing, let's hold it nice and high. They give us a- oh. I got what I need. I got what I need, Dana. Yeah, well, the first match I took out was already used. Okay, you each know what you're doing.
I'll take the candle. Not hard to keep.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold it straight up when you hold it.
Stand here.
Lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen lai 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 Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samin borei minei v'samin lai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei milrei ha'esh borei milrei ha'esh Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamaldil ben kodesh lecho hamaldil ben kodesh lecho lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai lai Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai lai
Page 312.
Hanavi Eliyahu Hatishbi Eliyahu Hagiladi Bimhera v'hamenu Hiabo Eleinu Im Mashiach ben David Im Mashiach ben David Eliyahu Hanavi Eliyahu Hatishbi Eliyahu Hagiladi
Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarechet amo v'shalom. May God grant us strength. May God grant us and all people God's gift of peace. Shabbat Shavua Tov.
Shavuot.
think it's safer anyway the way it is. You know, before it was so cold.